Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Trust everybody's had a chance to sign up. All right. Okay. If you would bow with me in a word of prayer real quick. Lord Jesus, thank you for this day. Thank you for allowing us this opportunity once again, Lord, that we may do your will. We just ask that you be with those in harm's way, Lord. Be with those service members and their families who are lost in the line of duty of protecting our freedoms, Lord. In your name we pray. Amen. All right. First up, we're going to have House Bill 984. Chairman Kemp, come on down.
Hi. So we're looking at House Bill 984 LC 481723S. And this bill, I appreciate the input from PAC on this. They were very instrumental in nailing some things down to make this a tight bill. If an individual, a child, a disabled adult, or an elderly person, if their safety and well-being is being investigated and they go from a known address to an unknown address, then law enforcement can contact a Superior Court judge and request a court order to make sure that person is safe. So you do have judicial oversight with having to go through the court system. And I'm open for any questions.
I see no questions. If you want to scoot over, we will take testimony now. I'm going to limit everyone to a minute. Have a hard stop at 5 o'clock this afternoon. Rules is meeting at 5 o'clock this afternoon, so we will have a hard stop. Whatever we do not get to today, we will get to on Thursday. So if you need to talk to Expedia, you've got time to do it. All right, Tripp Richardson from Frontline, come on down.
Thank you, Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Tripp Richardson with Frontline Policy. As we have mentioned previously, we support HB 984 because protecting vulnerable children and elders must be a priority. When someone can avoid accountability by simply moving a victim and cutting off access, that undermines justice and puts lives at risk. This bill ensures the state can fulfill its responsibility to protect the innocent while still respecting due process and judicial oversight. That's why we strongly support HB 984 and ask for your favorable vote on this bill. Thank you.
See no questions. Good job. All right. Anybody else signed up on this that I'm just simply overlooking? All right. Seeing none. Okay. Thank you. We'll take a vote here shortly. So thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next I have Representative Danny Mathis. I think he's out in the hall. House Bill 1395. Somebody want to go get him? Come on down. Go ahead.
You ready? Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, members of the committee. I'm here to present House Bill 1395. It's LC 394950. It's to amend Chapter 5, Title 40 Official Code, anointing related to driver's license, so as to require the intervention component of DUI, alcohol or drug use, risk reduction program be conducted in person. And that's to provide for related matters, repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. So that's pretty much the bill. Is it's the DUI and drug schools reduction program to be in person, Mr. Chairman.
You know, as long as I've been here, I will say I have never really seen anybody point out that all laws and parts of the laws in conflict with the act would be repealed. I mean, it's in just about every piece of legislation we take up, but I want to thank you for being the first that I can remember to point that out in the bill. So it's always a good reminder. All right, number 7, Representative Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you just tell me the reason why? Because I can imagine that online helps folks who maybe work nights and can't get somewhere in person, or in rural areas where there's maybe not as much opportunity? I'm just trying to understand what the reason is to take it back the other.
Yes, ma'am. The reason for me this is it's fairly simple, and like I say, this is an opinion. This is a serious offense, Representative. I have been in the funeral home business for years. I've been in coroner business for years. I've worked accidents where DUI was involved or drugs, where I had a specific case. I had a 2-year-old child that was thrown through a windshield because of a drunk mother was holding the baby. A drunk boyfriend that's not the daddy of the baby was thrown through the windshield, hit the middle of a Georgia highway. Massive brain trauma, killed him. They had hit a culvert, drinking, driving after midnight. Those types of situation, leads me to this. For the simple reason, you have to learn a lesson. A life was lost in that case. But I worked other cases where people were disabled for the rest of their lives. A parent had to raise them because they couldn't work because of DUI. It's a very serious offense in my opinion. I'm not really concerned about the convenience of the lawbreaker because I understand that they do have jobs and they have other folks that they depend on. But this is one of those things when it can be the ultimate loss is a life or the ability to function normally. That's my reasoning behind it.
So I completely agree with you that it's a horrific offense, no doubt about that. I guess, how long has it been available online versus in person? Because didn't it used to be in person?
My understanding is it kind of changed when COVID came along.
Okay.
And now we're even letting classes be done online from folks that don't even live in Georgia. They're taking it from all over the country. You can get on one of the programs and Zoom. And I understand technology, but there's nothing like, it's nice to FaceTime my grandchildren don't live at home, but there's nothing like picking them up and playing with them and taking them a ride. You understand what I'm saying? I think the impact of being in person, you have to make arrangements to be there, is just part of the rehabilitation. I don't want to take this too lightly. I want to make sure I do know people to make a mistake. I even had a child at one time got caught for DUI, okay? And in my position, I don't want to say this arrogantly, but I probably could have got that child out of that. But there needed to be a lesson. Lost his license, okay? Mm-hmm. Went through the school. That child got the license back and never had another trouble. Never. So it's an impression thing. On a lighter note, when I was in school, this is going to surprise the chairman, I'm sure. I wasn't very smart in school. So I failed Algebra 1, okay? Well, my option was to go to summer school. When I'm old enough, summer school it started early in the summer. Summer was from 1st of June all the way to end of August back then. We didn't start after Labor Day. So I had to go take Algebra 1. It made an impression on me. A buddy of mine made 69 in English. I made 68 in algebra, but I said I won't never be here again to ruin my summer. So that's the point. I'm trying to make a case that says they need to pay the consequences. I understand the fines. I understand the jail time. But this is another way they can rehabilitate and let them know that this is a very, very serious offense.
Do we have any statistics on before it shifted to that, what the repeat offense was versus, online? I'm just curious if it has that
I
impact
understand
that you're talking
that in statistics to me, it's kind of who you get these statistics from. So I'm sure there might be some success. But I'm saying here in Georgia, I think we need to make sure we impose these folks to be there and have to do what they need to do to get this certificate. And it may help them. If they sit there and interact with 12, 15 people, it may make a difference. If I'm on a computer with you back and forth is one thing, but to be like me and you are right now,
yes, sir.
It's a whole different thing in my book. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
About got so choked up. You telling them stories, I almost fell off my dinosaur. Representative Neal.
Thank you to the chair. Thank you to the author. So I guess I have a question. So the calls that I received related to people that have military service, and their concerns about that. And the calls I received was less about convenience of the offender. It was more so about convenience of getting them rehabilitated faster, so they don't have to wait. Like, there's no need to delay if they have an online option. And then I was also engaged on this topic in relation to, this is not like a YouTube video. It's one where it is interactive. You can't just, sit there and, have your eyes glaze over. So I guess I want your feeling about the perspective of, it's not about convenience of making life easier for you. It's about the convenience of getting them rehabilitated faster to have your ultimate goal taken into account.
Well, I've got, mixed thoughts on that somewhat. I mean, I want them rehabilitated fast. I don't want them to do it to start with.
Right.
Because that's where it all starts. Just don't do it and you ain't got to worry about it. But I'm still to the notion that that's just a consequence of what you did. So I don't know, the less, more convenience. I don't know if I totally agree with that. But again, this is an opinion, and if there's something that I understand the military part, and I understand that, and I don't have too much sympathy for other states using ours to do it. I mean, it's this is a very, very, and I know you know this. I mean, we're on other committees together, and we talk, we listen. It's a very serious offense, and I just think we need to make sure that these people are accountable and attainable and do what they should do.
Are you open to specific amendments related to military or what have you?
I mean,
Exceptions?
like I said, this is an opinion for me. This is not a conviction. It's an opinion, a strong opinion.
Okay, thank you.
And so I may be.
Number 14, Representative Bill Fincher.
I wonder if the author of the bill would be considering something where they could go in person. Let's say the person's from Texas, or the person is in military and they're stationed somewhere else, another state. They have these in-person programs all over the United States. I wonder if an amendment to this bill that would allow someone to go in person out of state, if they're from out of state, or have to be moved from, like a military person. Well, and that might make it more acceptable to the people that are asking these questions. I heard 2 questions in that area. Would you consider that kind of amendment?
I'd be open to that.
Okay, number 4, is that Representative Kendrick?
Yes.
So my question is about, thank you. My question is about line 34 where it says, however, that intervention components of such courses. So I'm unfamiliar with the scope of DUI courses. Are the courses divided into certain components, and this bill only wants the intervention components of the full course to be in person?
The 20 hours that they're subject to, yes, ma'am.
So a DUI course is divided into different components, and this bill only deals with the intervention components. Is that how I read
I
it?
believe that's correct, but I'm just interested in the in-person rehabilitation part, that they need to be in person, the risk reduction part.
Okay.
All right, I see no other questions. We'll get to testimony. You can slide over, Representative, if you want. Okay. Let's go Al Barber. Come on down. Just remind you of the minute time frame. Get as much in as you can there, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. I first want to tell you a little bit about myself very quickly. I'm a second-generation owner of a 62-year-old company from Columbus, Georgia. We're a hybrid operating company, both online and in person. We have products across the spectrum, from driver education, driver rehabilitation, driver risk reduction programs and DDC programs. I previously have served on the Georgia Driver Ed Commission Board for 3.5 years, appointed by Governor Dill, and most recently appointed to the Georgia Department of Driver Services Board by Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones. I'm here today representing the Georgia Driving School Association, who has members throughout the state: Augusta, Savannah, Albany, Tifton, Macon, Albany, and Athens and Gainesville, and pretty much all the metropolitan area, who are certainly opposed to this bill. And you may have got a packet from our lobby showing you those schools. So first I want to address the question of quality, accountability, and outcomes when comparing in-person instruction to instructor-led online. So that question continues to come up. So what we did is we found the best research person we could find in the state of Georgia to give us scientific evidence to tell us which one's better, do we need to eliminate online. So the review was conducted by Professor Orrin Mowbray, PhD. He is the Executive Director of the Ralston Institute of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities at the University of Georgia. They don't come any better than this. And we posed this question to him, and his findings are very conclusive, based on research, not based on stigma or thoughts or emotions. He says, based on the cumulative evidence, I conclude that instructor-led online DUI and alcohol risk reduction programs perform comparably to in-person programs when delivered instructor-led, where you're interactive on Zoom, for example. There is no empirical basis to categorically exclude instructor-led virtual delivery on the assumption that inherently this is less than effective.
Mr. Barber, I hate to cut you off, but maybe we can get through the rest of your
Okay, there are
testimony
numerous
there.
public safety things you can imagine, and I can tell you, when you stop online training, you have just disassociated yourself for care for people living in the rural area. Our clients in Tifton and Valdosta called this morning, member schools, and said, if you stop this, they're out of business. There's already not a school in Waycross, in Brunswick. This is the only way they can receive this service. And changing this is not going to solve the problem.
So
In fact,
let me ask a question
Yes, sir.
real quick. So how many right now would you say across the state are in-person attendees versus virtual online?
I would say probably 50-50.
Okay. All right. Number 7, Representative Roberts.
That was my question, sorry.
Okay. All right. Has there been obviously I would think around COVID there was probably an uptick.
Yeah, when you have more accessible ways of taking a class, you have more people attending the class.
Okay.
And that's why another strong opponent of keeping the online training. You know, we feel like the bill is really economic protectionism, and it does not serve the general population of this state at all. As far as we want to punish the DUI offender, why are we not looking at the defensive driving course, driver improvement? So think about this. We're saying that this person needs to be rehabilitated in person, but what about the offense of vehicle homicide that we're not addressing? What about the offense of feticide by vehicle? What about the offense of someone fleeing and eluding from a police officer doing 100 miles an hour down the street that runs over a child? So this, in particular, bill addresses one component part of driver education in the state. It's absolutely economic protectionism, and it does not work. It's been proven time and time again. When you try to use legislative power to restrict models of distribution, you actually harm the economy. And think about the Georgia University system. They sat back on their hands for a long time, and they watched companies like Phoenix Online come in, take a little bit, and then COVID hit. What happened? Half the classroom was gone, and they didn't come back. The University of Georgia had to get with the time. They had to modernize. They had to offer the online programs to stay relevant. If you kill online distribution, you will be effectively killing our ability to compete. Because just like the representative said, we have schools on the other side. We have Arizona, California, and we have Colorado, who currently offers instructor-led interactive programs like us. When you kill online here, what you're doing is inviting out-of-state companies to come in and take our Georgia revenue. That's why we're so opposed to it. We know what's coming.
Okay.
And we don't want you to be part of that, scripting the bill to send revenue and jobs and everything else back over to other states when we need it. That's how we stay in business. I understand the argument about punishment, but that was received the day they got arrested, when they had to pay huge fines, they had to pay legal fees, they had to pay bonds, and all the other punitive action that is taken. This program was never written to be punitive. It was written to be educational, and we want to keep it in that format.
Okay.
And if
I
you
got
think-
another question real
Yes, sir.
quick. Hold
Go
on.
ahead.
Representative Kendrick.
Thank you. I'm unfamiliar with DUI schools, so I'm trying to learn
Right.
here. So whether it's in person and online, I'm assuming at the end of a course, whether it's in person and online, you're given an assessment or some type of test. Is that how it's set up?
Basically, whether you're in person or you're on camera, you just moved your location. It's effectively the exact same program. You take an assessment before you're allowed in. Now, we allow the assessment to be taken online. Then the intervention. For 6 years, our citizens have become customized. They're used to that. They expect these services to be online. And now look, the regulatory authority, DDS, has no problem monitoring, regulating the program. In fact, it's stronger regulation because they got 9 field representatives, 9 monitors, to try to monitor 200 schools across this state. Can you imagine that? Where they can sign in on a Zoom class, it's time stamped. We know when someone's there. We know when they leave. We know when they participate. And the technology there now, we can even, through summary reports, know who's been interactive and who has not been. Never will you accomplish that in person. Never. The oversight is much stronger with virtual, online, interactive, instructive-led. I don't want you to be ignorant to what we're hearing here today. We're talking about changing a delivery system that has been delivered and been successful for 6 years. Well, I take that back. Because a few schools don't want to move forward. I understand that. That's their choice. If they don't want to adopt online, that's their choice. If they want to maintain their in-person only status, that's their choice. If they want to get online, that's their choice. If a client needs to take DUI class that lives 100 miles away from the nearest school, what do you tell them in South Georgia who doesn't have a car, who may be on home arrest and can't leave? Think about what we're doing to the less privileged citizens of this state.
So your answer is yes, that the information that you get in person and online
It's same.
is the same thing. Okay.
Same testing, same assessment, everything. What we have here is a few schools who don't like this change that we're going through. You know, my mother years ago wouldn't take credit cards in the business. And for years I'd tell her, Mom, take the credit card. I'm not paying the bank that discount fee, no way. And I said, you need to make the change. We're losing customers because people have an expectation. Other schools would take it. She wouldn't, right? It was about 6 months after I started this hard approach with her that one Saturday she had a purse full of cash in her office. DUI school had just assimilated, everybody had just paid. And you know what happened? Someone from a previous class came in and armed robbed her of that cash. We're not talking about minor things. We're talking about school security. We're talking about female instructors who have challenges to eject people who may be intoxicated, who may be high, or who may be having other issues. We set people out both online and in person, not just for alcohol and drugs, but we have a lot of people, ADHD, we have bipolar, all these things that make us think we need to set these people out. And it's much safer to set them out in a Zoom room than it is to have a physical altercation inside the classroom. There are so many benefits to maintaining this program. And I'm not opposed to someone staying in person. That's their prerogative. But don't take away the ability for us to compete in today's market or to cross state lines. Now, he said he's not too concerned about other
Mr. Barber,
citizens.
I hate to interrupt again.
That's okay. You gave me a good amount of time. I appreciate it.
I've got a good bit. There's another barber on here that
Yep,
may
you're gonna
bear
clean
some
it up for me.
relationship with you.
Okay.
So, let's see.
Members, I really appreciate the time.
And thank you for
this one.
coming.
Okay, thank you.
Buster Barber. Now, is this your brother Al?
That's my son. Thank
Okay,
you.
all right, yes, sir. Come on down, Buster.
So all questions that y'all have about driving schools I can answer. I've been running the family business for 25 years. Thank you for having me here. Just talking on the safety perspective, when you're talking about instructors and students leaving classrooms late at night, walking through dark parking lots. We had fights prior to COVID in the classroom. You have instructors have to break them up, calling law enforcement. We have people that show up 5 or 10 minutes late. DDS will now allow us to let people in that are 5 minutes late to class. You tell someone that not only can they not come into class, but they're going to lose their money. It's really dangerous for an instructor to tell someone that they can't come to the class, that maybe they show up, they're 30 minutes late, they're sweating, their ride didn't show up to pick them up. These people don't have driver's licenses. They don't have the money to afford the Uber that may or may not be available in their community. And if you look up what an intervention component is, it's therapeutic education. We're past the point where we're punishing. We're past the point where we're trying to slap them on the wrist. We want to help these people so that they don't repeat offend. 17% of our business came from out of state. When you essentially cut off Zoom, you cut off 17% of a driving school's revenue if you look at what we get. And if you're pushing people to take out-of-state courses, that means you're stopping money from coming into Georgia. They might take a Texas DUI school for the state of Georgia. Why would you want to do that? Why would you not want for Georgia businesses to be able to get out-of-state revenue?
Mr. Barber, I'll give you a chance to conclude.
Okay. In conclusion, for employee safety, for customer safety, for a mandated educational class to be as accessible as possible to someone that you don't want to repeat offend, to know that we are doing it the right way. There are programs and policies that the DDS has put in place. I've made a packet that all driving schools and instructors have to sign when they have these live interactive classes that my monitor could click on right this second and see all the participants that are there, all their faces, that they're not driving, they're not working, that they can monitor from anywhere in the world versus having to drive 3 hours to Columbus and see if that DUI school has actually got those students in there that they're giving certificates to. We remember back in the day, Dateline did a special on DUI schools selling certificates. It's more regulatory oversight when you can just automatically log into a class and see what's going on, and it's safer for our employees and it's better for the small businesses.
Thank you, Mr. Barber. You got a question over? She waves. All right. Thank you for being with us today.
All right. I try to fit it all in.
You're good.
Thank you. Guys.
Barry, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Would y'all like these?
Come on.
Would you like these
Sure,
rules
just
that are in
pass them
place? Pretty much one's the instructor and one's the program agreement, and they're all the same rules. So there's two in each, so that for all y'all to see what DDS already has in place for us. There you go.
Go ahead, Barry.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the committee. My name is Barry Schrenk, S-C-H-R-E-N-K. Been licensed to teach driver education for a little over 50 years in the state of Georgia. 35 years teaching the DUI risk reduction program. And in all those years, I've never had that kind of problem that Mr. Barber just explained, that we needed to call out the state troopers or something because we got problems in the classroom. It usually goes pretty smoothly. What we have in the state of Georgia since 1990, when it was first implemented, is a first-class gold star curriculum that is used for people who have problems driving under the influence of alcohol and or drugs. That program consists basically of 4 different components. The first at the present time is an assessment. It's a 120-question assessment that the student takes before they go into class. That assessment instrument is so good, there's about a 96% rate of accuracy with that assessment. For example, okay. Anyway, 96% accuracy with that assessment. That assessment tool is very important to the instructor because if it's a good instructor, they have looked at that assessment to see what the problems are with each individual student that's in the class. That assessment is also important because about 3/4 of the way through the 20-hour class, we present that information to the student. And incidentally, we're not there as judgmental people. This is education, and we're trying to help them determine whether they are addicted to alcohol, or they're close to addiction, or maybe they just had a bad night for the first time in their life, but they got stopped the first time they drove drunk, which would be highly unusual, because usually somebody is driven 200 to 300 times before they get caught on average.
So, Barry,
Yes.
Do you support or oppose this legislation?
I oppose this legislation because we have a great program. It's used, our state was the first in 1990. There's now 16 other states that use this same program. It's also used by the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marines, and the Coast Guard. So if a soldier in Fort Benning happens to get a DUI and they get transferred someplace else, they could go to their military people and take the class there in person. Also, there's certain states like Florida, the judges there won't take a Zoom call or a Zoom certificate. It has to be in person. There's also judges in DeKalb County that won't take it online. They want it in person. That class, what happens basically is when the class starts in the morning, no one talks to each other. By the end of the day, they're pretty good friends because they're all in there for the same problem. And then we do exercises with them. We'll break up the class, 4 here, 4 there, 4 there, what have you. And then we do those exercises, and then we go over them together. So by the end of the class, the end of the course, that person knows where they are in their use of alcohol and or drugs. And that's what it is. It's it's just an excellent program. Some people have to go on and take in-person, enroll in an in-person program. But at least everybody in the class knows where they are. And that's what our job is. They have to find out and admit to themselves before they can get other help.
Okay. I had
That's
a
what it's
question down
designed
here.
to do.
Representative Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have 2 questions. One, where are your schools located?
Tucker, Dunwoody, and East Cobb.
Okay. And what did you do during COVID when you couldn't be in person?
We were in person.
Really?
Yes, even in the car. All the cars are wiped down. All the instructors wipe down the equipment in car, the classrooms. Now, some of the private schools where we teach our program, they were online for the classroom portion of it. But the rest of it, and we didn't have 1 case of COVID.
Okay. Do you know how many schools there are in the state of Georgia that don't offer online?
I don't know that.
Okay, I'm just curious. Thank you.
Good job, Barry. I see no other questions. Thank you.
Oh, yes, I'm in favor of the bill. Did I say I wasn't?
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I'm still thinking about the Senate bill. That's a disaster. That's a disaster. Excuse
Okay.
me.
Clear the stage.
This is a great bill.
Thank you, Barry.
You're welcome.
All right, anybody else sign up that I didn't see? Okay, going once, going twice. Thank you, we'll come back to it, Representative Mathis. All right, next up, we're gonna go back and visit one from last session. A gentleman from Dalton, Georgia. And that would be House Bill 237. Come on down, Chairman Carpenter.
you want to stay right?
Revisit me?
Yes, we're gonna revisit you. We're gonna have 2 nights of visitation,
Yes.
and we won't charge you what you would for that.
I won't charge you a lawyer.
Go ahead, Casey.
Hey, Nancy and Danny, you might want to stay for this one. Yep, House Bill 237 makes sure that we are addressing some concern among the artists around the state that their lyrics, etc., are being used against them in court, in trial. And so this piece of legislation lays out a process that we believe will ensure that the judge allows the evidence after a meeting before trial so that the jury is not tainted with the evidence. Passed out of committee last year. Nothing has changed with the substitute that was presented last year that passed. Obviously, we had some conversations with the DAs when they were here, and I'm sure they may be here to talk today. But basically, it's just making sure that we're protecting our creatives to be creative, and what they say in a song is not used against them in court proceedings. And I'll yield for any questions.
Okay. I think we heard this ad nauseum last session. So
Yep.
I see no members of the committee with questions. If you want to slide over there, Chairman Carpenter, we'll go on to testimony. Brian Hudson, if he wanted to come down.
Hey, it's about time to replace these chairs. They're wore out.
Okay, he's on his way. Anybody else signed up for this that I'm just too blind to see? Oh, hey, come on down, DA McGinley.
We had a good time with this thing last year.
I'll be quick. I'll give myself a minute limit, even if you were not going to. I feel like you were going to, though. So, Randy McGinley, I'm the DA in the Alcovey Circuit. I think we discussed this last year. I think some of the issues are what is creative artistic expression. I mean, frankly, we just tried a case in Walton County 2 weeks ago that somebody could get up there and say, I created artistic expression. It's a video of me having sex with an 8-year-old little girl. And then we'd have to argue that. And if we think that people, defendants, are not going to say those things, they're going to. But in general, this idea that it is basically a rebuttable presumption that is not admissible, DAs are not using rap. We're not prosecuting people for their lyrics, their music lyrics. We're using lyrics as evidence in the prosecution of the case. There's a big difference between those things. And again, making this a rebuttable presumption that it is not admissible is treating it vastly different than any other type of evidence that we have and that we use in cases in criminal court. So with that, I'll yield any questions.
You had 8 seconds to spare. Good job.
I'll take that 8 seconds to wish my wife, in case she's watching, a happy birthday, if that's all right.
That's proper. Hold on 1 second. You got a question.
Okay, I do have a question. Try to get away without a question.
Well, happy birthday to her as well. All right. Representative Kendrick.
Here instead.
Thank you. So I believe you testified at the last committee we had. So you don't like rebuttable presumptions, I'm assuming.
No, it's treating it completely different than any other type of evidence. It should be treated just like any other evidence, and if the defense wants to file a motion and try to exclude it under 403, which is the prejudice weighing thing, or that it's not relevant, defense attorneys do that all the time when they think that evidence should not be used by the prosecution. They can file a motion, and we can treat it just like any other type of evidence.
So if that was... So that is your only problem with the bill, is the way that it is treated. You don't have an issue with the heart of what the bill is trying to do. You just don't like the way it's treated in evidence.
I don't know if I see the difference in those things, though, frankly. I mean, to me, the heart of the bill is treating it different than other types of evidence. And when you say the broad definition of artistic expression evidence could encompass all sorts of things. I know they exclude, like, gang signs, but what if somebody is doing a video of him and his gang members together, and he calls it artistic expression? I mean, to me, that is, why are we treating that different than any other type of evidence?
Okay, I understand your argument. Thank you.
No other questions. Thank you.
Thank y'all.
All right. Brian Hudson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. This seems to be a regular occurrence in this committee. I am here to support Chairman Carpenter's legislation. Excuse me, I just ran over here from the LOB. I apologize. My name is Brian Hudson. I am here on behalf of the Recording Academy, which, as many might know, they put on the Grammys. And I also represent the Recording Industry Association of America, which is the record companies, as well as Georgia Music Partners. And so we've been working with Chairman Carpenter for a couple years, I think, on this legislation. And so I'm just rising to support the legislation and happy to answer any questions.
See no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry I was late.
If it had been anybody else that wasn't as fit as you are, we wouldn't have done that to you.
You're so kind. Thank you.
All right. I see no questions. All right. Anybody else signed up to this? Okay. Seeing none, what say the committee? Oh, number 7.
No, I was just going to make a motion.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to pass.
They do pass a second. Any discussion? Seeing none. See no amendments. All right. I got a move in a second that House Bill 237 do pass. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. You're on the rules. Get that form to me today,
We'll do the best we can. Have a good day, guys. Headed to higher ed. Changing the world.
Is Chairman Gullett with us?
I'm here.
That was perfect timing. I will allow you to present from right there, Chairman Gullett.
Fantastic. I appreciate that.
What number are you?
12.
Okay. And this is House Bill 1432.
1 second while I find the legislation, sir. All right. Yep, so this is LC 443481. We currently have an legislative oversight committee for public defenders today. There is a short amount of time that appointees can happen for that oversight commission. And when people leave the commission or the committee, there's no method for reappointing people until that opening slot of, I think, 10 days from the start of the first year of a session. And so what this bill does is it allows a way for replacement appointees to happen, which is in line 20, for a vacancy. And then additionally, you'll see on line 42, we just change it to, it should be unlawful for the council and director to fail to cooperate with such committee. Happy to entertain if this doesn't move forward, happy to entertain an amendment to say or, so council or director, instead of an and there. But again, this is just a legislative oversight committee, just freshening it up so we can actually make it active and use it today.
That change would be on which line there, Chairman Gullett?
Yeah, line 42. The council says it shall be unlawful for the council, striking and putting an or, director.
Okay, got a question over here. Number 5, Representative Neal.
Thank you to the chair. Thank you to the author. So I just had a question about line 42. Pardon my ignorance, but so when you add "it shall be unlawful for the council and or director to fail to cooperate," is there like a penalty? Like I feel like it's incomplete. Like unlawful. What's like a?
It's a misdemeanor.
Misdemeanor.
Yeah.
Does that need to be in here or like?
No, I think that's just the way the law. When it's unlawful for something, it is a misdemeanor. Understanding.
Okay. I see no other questions at this moment. All right. Let's see. Chris Cohilas, come on down. I don't think we've had anybody from your office ever grace us before.
From which office?
From are you from the central office?
No. I'm the chairperson for the Georgia Public Defender Standards Council.
Outstanding.
I'm a private attorney in Albany, Georgia. Former county commission chairman for 8 years in Dougherty County. Former prosecutor for 7 years.
Well,
Prosecuted.
God bless you. Go ahead.
Yeah. Prosecuted crimes against women and children for 7 years. First of all, Chairman, committee, I want to thank you for the time to be here and to address this matter. There are 2 changes in Bill number 1432 that are dealt with. The first is dealing with vacancies. I'm not here to advocate one way or the other. However, a legislative oversight occurs, or however this body wants to do that, that's its own business. That's not something that I'm here to quibble with. I want to talk about, though, the practical impact of what is being proposed, and also to talk about historically what has happened. Historically speaking, it used to be that the council was a strong operational council where it had a lot of operational authority. It was able to take control of the everyday goings on of the organization. That didn't work out very well, and ultimately it was brought within the executive branch. The council is more of an advisory board. We oversee certain things, but we don't manage day-to-day operations. That being said, the language that is being proposed, I understand completely the good place that it's coming from, but I'm here to talk about the law of unintended consequences. There is a natural conflict that occurs between the Public Defender Standards Council and other agencies, other people, other entities that often sue us, including the Southern Center for Human Rights, that we've been sued multiple times by that organization, and we've actually seen it partner with other state organizations that have tried to actually obtain attorney-client privileged materials. And
Chris,
that's-
we've run out of time, but I do want to get into this a little bit. As far as the bill, you mentioned an amendment. What was your thoughts? I think it was about vacancy, lines 20 through 23. Could you enlighten us as to what you would change in that?
No, I don't have any issue with 20 through 23. Just historically speaking, I don't think that there's been a lot of coordination as it relates to the oversight committee. We know that historically speaking, we've had appointees from the Senate. I don't know that we've had people that we've been able to interact with, or the director's been able to interact with from the House. Obviously, there's been renewed interest there. We don't take issue with that. The issue that we take issue with are lines 42 through 43, which you have these vague terms of cooperation and shall be unlawful for. And if you have professionals that are taking principled positions about what is or is not capable of being released, and you have volunteers such as myself and many other private attorneys that are volunteering their time to serve as public servants, and they're being potentially threatened with a misdemeanor if a principled position is taken, I think this is something that should go back to a study committee. I think that the appropriate consequences should be realized, and what you're going to end up doing is running off some very good people, respectfully.
Well, with all due respect, we've got a pretty dire constitutional issue down in, I believe it's either Camilla or Cordele. I've got two
I'm very
offenders
familiar
down there, and so I would say this: the chair is very empathetic to this piece of legislation because the response from the head of this department was absolutely abysmal. And so I understand your point and unintended consequences, but our system is just a gnat's hair's breadth away from having lawsuits filed across this state. In my home circuit alone, we are very, very close to having private counsel appointed. Now, I've been at a firm before that took contracts in 9 different counties. I'm very empathetic to the public defenders, but I think part of this is we're having a very hard time getting our message through to that department. So I think this is the first time we've ever had somebody from the council come while I've been chair, and I thank you for that. This is not directed at you.
I totally understand that. I'm also very familiar with the situation in Cordele, and if you want to talk about that later or now
Sure.
or some other time, I'm
We can
happy
talk
to
offline about it.
Sure. Be happy to.
Okay. Chairman Gullett.
I would just say, today, the current law says the council and director shall cooperate with such committee. It's already a requirement today to cooperate. We're just making it to where when we don't feel like there's cooperation happening because it's already in the law to shall, there's just no penalty for it. And so there is a penalty for not cooperating. That is the gist. You're already supposed to do it. It's a shall in there. It's not a may. And this is just reaffirming that you shall cooperate with us, or it could be a misdemeanor. Now, the legislature does not, we don't prosecute, as you know. That would fall to a solicitor to make that happen, and that's a high threshold probably to happen. But this is something I think is important part of the bill where we need cooperation, and this is just, stressing we need cooperation that we don't get.
I fully understand, and what I'm very humbly suggesting, and look, I'm here to support transparency. I've been a prosecutor. I've been an elected official. Your positions, I appreciate your public service. The reality is, though, there is a component of discretion and certain principled decisions that do have to be made as it relates to attorney-client privilege. Who determines what cooperation is? Who determines what information is capable of being?
It's already there. You already shall cooperate. We're not defining. We didn't add the word cooperate. That's already been there. We just up the ante on saying that's it's unlawful not to do it, which it should be unlawful. This is an oversight committee, and if you're not cooperating, I don't know how you can do oversight.
Well, there are also laws that that conflict sometimes with the requirements of the state bar, particularly as it relates to confidentiality. And I've seen these conflicts play out, and I'm not being argumentative. I'm just saying there are conflicts that occur, and when you have professionals that have to guard their licenses, when you're potentially liable for a misdemeanor, has a remarkable chilling effect. And I think there's probably a way to find a solution. to all this, and those are my humble remarks.
Thank you.
Chris, no more questions. Thank you for coming by today. That was not directed at you.
Sure.
It's just I've been incensed at what's going on, not only in one circuit, but across others that I hear. So thank you for being with us. Hope to talk with you again. And you have no more questions.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right. That's all I have signed up, I think. I'll entertain a motion. Move to pass. Do I hear a second? All right. Move to pass a second. Seeing no amendments, all those. Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
Changing the and to or, line 42, the council or director.
So it would read, instead of an and there on line 42, it would be an or.
That's correct.
Okay. Everybody hear the Gullett amendment?
Second.
All right. Moving second on the Gullett amendment. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the Gullett amendment say aye.
Aye.
All right. Back to the bill as a whole. Seeing no other amendments, all those in favor of the passage of House Bill 1432 LC 443481 as amended say aye. All those opposed, same sign. Congratulations, you're on the rules. The ayes have it. Okay. Representative Leverett, I'll let you present from right there where you're at. House Bill 997.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 997 was presented to the committee several weeks ago. This is a bill that would, well, as filed, would have increased the per diem reimbursement to counties and county jails for housing state inmates. Currently, the statutory rate is $7.50 per day plus such additional amount as is appropriated. We were proposing to raise that to $50 a day plus any additional amount we might appropriate. And then we also had some limits on transport, and we applied that rule to Department of Community Services for if we were housing people who were in jail, in a county jail on a probation warrant, and to the Department of Corrections, and also to Pardons and Paroles, because we sometimes do hold probationers who have been revoked in county jails. The substitute tempered that zeal substantially to try to make it a little more palatable. We got a fiscal note, Mr. Chairman, thank you for requesting that, and it would have largely broke the bank of the state budget to do that. Which I would acknowledge the reality of that. I don't want to break the state budget, but I would submit that someone's paying those costs, and right now it's our counties and our sheriff's budgets. And so I still think further attention is needed, but in the hopes that I could at least try to make some incremental change, what I've done in LC 630129S, that's a substitute for you today, is we made a couple of changes. The main one is where the statutory rate of $7.50 was going to be changed to $50. I've changed it to $30 per day plus such amount as may be appropriated. So that's basically the going rate for reimbursement that Department of Corrections pays. I believe that is more. My understanding is Pardons and Paroles only pays $15. So that would constitute an increase for them, but they were the I guess I would say they're sort of the lesser frequent flyer customer when it comes to housing people in county jails. And then in the first section, we had a provision that would have basically said that probationers couldn't be held in county jails for more than 30 days unless you had the consent of the sheriff. And that was because frequently they stay there much, much longer, and some there's a practice also of submitting waivers where the someone who's been revoked and is in a county jail signs a waiver that allows them to serve a certain amount of time and be done completely, but they stay in the county jail, which is not really where they're supposed to stay if they've had a disposition of their probation revocation. So what I did is on line 37, I changed that 30 days to 60 days, so they could stay for up to 60 days. That should give the community service enough time to collect them or make some disposition. And then we did add language in 38 through 42 that basically says the sheriff should not be responsible for any transport of those probationers. And I have requested an updated fiscal note, but I don't believe Department of Community Service has gotten the information to the Department of Audits yet to do that, but it's my understanding that they already have ample personnel and vehicles to take care of that issue. To the extent there is some additional expenditure required, that's something I think we can try to address through the appropriations process. So we tried to sort of, for lack of a better word, mellow the bill down quite a bit, Mr. Chairman, so it might be less impactful on the state budget and more, hopefully more acceptable. It doesn't do as much for the sheriffs, but our poor sheriffs are at the point where they'll, any small victory is yet a victory for them because they've been forced to pay these expenses for so long. And so that's the substitute, Mr. Chairman.
Usually a revenue bill such as this would go through a different committee, but this seems to be a bill that we don't get too often where we could save the taxpayers money in every one of our counties. Isn't that true?
That's the goal here, Mr. Chairman. You've hit it on the head.
Okay, all right. See no questions from members of the committee. Anyone signed up? Nobody signed up? Oh, yes, come on down.
Sign up, but may I speak for a minute? Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Terry Norris. I'm Executive Director of the Georgia Sheriff's Association. My 44th year of enjoying a session of the General Assembly. Most of you, or a lot of you, were in middle school when I started. You to the chairman.
I was on my second kid at that point.
Okay. Anyway, 44 years ago. No. So anyway, very briefly, had opportunity to speak to the subcommittee on this matter. This is not a new issue. This has been going on for my entire career. It's changed a little bit over the last 16 years due to criminal justice reform and our efforts in the state to keep people out of prison, give them second chances. So a lot of people get on probation. The part of the bill, well, let me say it this way. We're asking for a morsel. The counties have never been adequately reimbursed for state inmates in county jails. The code, as the chairman said, is $750 now. The appropriation process allowed for more, but certainly not the amount that was needed to compensate or to pay the cost of these inmates in county jails that our local property taxpayers pay through our county governing authorities. So this is a step in the right direction to get us to a point where it's closer to the actual cost of housing inmates. As you well can imagine, we're talking about mental health costs, we're talking about medical costs, we're talking about food, everything that inmates have a right to have. So this will help in that regard. On the matter of probation violators, there's never been a reimbursement for probation violators housed in a county jail until the point they were revoked to prison and became a full-fledged state inmate. This bill does contemplate reimbursement there, but as important is the fact that when CJ reform came through, there was some wonderful things that happened. One thing that happened that allowed the Department of Community Service supervision to select from administrative sanctions. So say a judge and all these are felony cases. So a judge in a felony case would sentence someone to probation. That person will be on probation for a while, maybe not be successful. Go back before the judge. The judge would say, we're going to sentence you to a treatment center or a probation detention center. There are not a whole lot of those, so they're spread throughout the state. So this person would sit in a county jail, awaiting a bed at a treatment center or a probation detention center. So one important aspect of this bill is, heretofore, community service supervisors, probation officers, would let the sheriff know you need to take this person to some faraway location. There is no reason that probation officers can't make these transports themselves. In some cases, when we're talking about treatment centers, we would have stories from sheriffs that say, we took them to the RSAP center, they stayed 2 days, they failed out, and now they want us to go get them.
Terry, I'll give you a chance to conclude. We're a little over time, but wanted to hear your perspective.
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
You can finish.
I'm finished.
Okay.
If you say I am. If you say I'm finished, Chairman, I'm finished.
That's what I love about sheriffs.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate that perspective. Okay. Chris, come on. Philip, I'm sorry.
That's all right, sir.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon. Sorry. Ooh. Good afternoon. My name is Philip Henson. I'm the Government Relations Coordinator for the Department of Community Supervision. With respect to the substitute, I believe Chairman Leverett, you had referenced taking some of the language out for the reimbursement of probationers. That language is still in the bill. It is lines 138 to 149, as well as possibly 176 to 181. And Mr. Chairman, I believe I provided a copy of a handout to the committee. We did a snapshot to look at how many DCS supervisees are in county jails across the state. We reviewed every jail roster to get this information for the committee. Just to put it in perspective, 9,048 of the 41,279 county inmates were DCS supervisees. That represents about 21.92% of the total jail population. 97% of those are probationers. I will note that probation is a judicially mandated community sentence, and it remains under the jurisdiction and authority of the Superior Court judge until revocation or sentence completion. With respect to Section 1 of the bill, we'll note that's the Georgia Probation Management Act. It was implemented in, I believe, 2004 or 2005 with the explicit intent of reducing jail utilizations. Under POM, DCS must serve a POM waiver or hold a hearing within 15 days of arrest. I will note that the key word in this is options. So the way POM works is the Superior Court judge has the option at any point to enter into the probation options management system, which allows DCS to address the violation. It doesn't change anything that happens prior to an arrest. It just allows DCS to address the violation without conducting a court hearing. On average, a non-POM technical violation spends 99 days in jail. A POM technical violation spends 31 days in jail. So it's about a 69% reduction in jail time. And we're only talking about technical violations. So we're not talking about new felony offenses. We're not talking about violent misdemeanors. And we're not talking about DUIs. We'll note also, though, despite its effectiveness at reducing jail stays, only 18% of probation cases are POM cases. With the addition of the transport language in the substitute, we are working on the fiscal note, Chairman Leverett. There is going to be a cost. We don't have transport officers. We don't have all of our vehicles aren't caged vehicles, so we'd have to get those vehicles caged. And it would also be an additional requirement for our supervision officers to handle these transports. So we are working on those. I will note, though, that transports are typically ordered by the Superior Court judge, not by DCS. So,
Thank you, sir.
all right.
Yes, sir. Which one are you?
I'm trying. This one, I think you can cut it on. I can never get it. Thank you. I appreciate your testimony. And as to that language, you're correct. That does need to be stricken. I did strike the language that would have implied that, I think, in the first section. I think the concern that I'm hearing is, despite what your data supposedly shows, some of your officers are having inmates in county facilities after they've been there more than just 30 days sign waivers that allow them to to serve time to expunge their sentence and do it in a county facility, which is not, I think, the state policy for doing. But when they sign that waiver, it effectively has the impact as if it were a court order. And that's happening. I know it's happening that was sort of one of the main reasons for my filing the bill, is one of my sheriffs came to me, and that was the main problem he had, not so much with corrections, but with DCS.
Yes, sir. I think that's so those are consent waivers. And I will, again, just to reiterate, DCS cannot unilaterally revoke anyone to a county facility. Even with a consent waiver, it typically has to be signed off by the probationer, their attorney, the DA, as well as the sentencing court.
But who does it originate with? I think it originates with one of your officers.
It originates as a recommendation. Sometimes it's from DCS. Sometimes it's in consultation with the DA.
So, well, that's one thing I would like to stop. I don't think it's appropriate for anyone in your department to suggest that a state felony probationer serve a sentence in order to complete his sentence in a county facility. It should be in a state facility. So that's one thing I'd like to hit at with the bill, with your cooperation.
All right, I'll make note of that, sir.
Thank you. See no other questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir.
Right now, we're going to take a restroom break. We'll be back in 10. So we'll stand at these for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Second order. All right. Chairman Leverett, I'll give you the last word.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think if the committee is inclined to act on the bill, I think I've got some amendments that should address the concerns of the Department of Community, not Service, Department of Community Supervision. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
DCS, yeah.
Okay, we'll need a move to get in that posture. All right, got a move to pass. Second. All right, Chairman Leverett, amendment.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I would move that we amend House Bill 997 LC 630129S in the following particulars. We would strike on line 129, strike everything, strike the text. We'd leave the number 2 in, but strike reimbursement under paragraph 1 of the subsection shall apply as follows, and then delete the paragraph heading A. We would delete, well, no, I'm sorry, we are keeping A and B. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, pardon me, strike that. We are keeping everything on 129 and 130. We are deleting lines 138 through 149. And then deleting lines 176 through 181. And I guess on 150, we would need to renumber the 4 as 3.
Okay, one more time from the top.
All right. We will delete lines 138 through 149. On line 150, we would renumber the paragraph heading of 4 as number 3. And then we would delete lines 176 through 181. And that's the amendment, Mr. Chairman.
I got moved to second on the Leverett amendment. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the Leverett amendment say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. All right. Any other amendments? Seeing none, all those in favor of the passage of House Bill 997 as amended, which has the LC 630129S, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. All right, you're on the rules, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr.
For planning purposes, at the request of Chairman Hagan, we have taken House Bill 1142 off. It will be back on for Thursday. Representative Rick Townsend, House Bill 968. Go ahead when ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate it. I just want to say thank you, committee, again for hearing this. I know some of you hear Kratom and everybody runs from me, so I apologize now. My wife does that too, so you're in good company. But again, thank you very much. I'm just going to wrap up some things that was said in the last meeting when we talked about the research. That's what you have to go back to. We understand that one of the biggest points made was there needs to be more research, and we know this is used a lot of times, even though they're not supposed to, FDA for pain meds or aches and pains or other illnesses we've heard about, but yet it's kind of backwards. We've approved something before we have good research. Unfortunately, there's only 2 schools in the Southeast that I know of that has any research at all coming into this. One's University of Georgia, Dr. Merle Norton. If you remember an email he sent before in the past, he does not, he is for banning it. Right now, he does believe long term there may be some use for it, but he says there's not enough research out there. That comes from one of the leading pharmacist researchers in the country. We know Dr. Grumman from University of Florida, they have a lot of research. They're talking about it is dangerous for guys like me who walk in off the street where my buddy works out all the time and says, hey, Rick, you can take this, and work out. I feel great when I do. I have less aches and pains. I take it and I see my favorite gas station clerk and I'm taking blood pressure medicine and it could cause cardiac arrest. Seizure medicine, blood pressure medicine, pregnant women, other type medications. Again, this has all been documented where it interacts with these. It's not a good spot to be in when you're just walking off the street. Dr. Joe Mendez and Dr. Lopez in the past, George Poor's in control, his assistant, who also was a Grady guy, Patrick Felkins, talked about Russian roulette. Again, when you take that bottle of kratom off the counter, is it too strong? Did the manufacturer trick us? Right now, we're guessing. I'm saying guessing because we're still doing the data with the police departments, confiscate some of it, is over the amounts allowed in current law. And that, again, is Russian roulette. Is it safe for the average person? Dr. Eastham spoke last time. He's also a registered pharmacist. He's an orthopedic doctor. Talked about the dangers of the alkaloids inside kratom and how it's affecting his son and his family. It's torn up his family. You also have Judge McMillan, who testified, probate judge in Brantley County, tore up his family, former sheriff. Also, you saw the West Georgia people here, the district attorney and the officers talking about what it's doing to the West Georgia area in your area, Mr. Chair. It's tearing things up. One of the things recently in Glenn County that's happened. And
Representative Townsend, I hate to cut
me
you
go
short.
quick.
Here's what I want you to address: is the substitute.
It is substitute. So yes, substitute. The biggest part of the substitute basically was we listened to PAC to make it where they could prosecute in Georgia for this bill. It is for a ban, and I could tell you more later if you want. But this is kind of right now. There's other states doing it as well, and it's affected a lot of people even recently. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, we've got questions. Representative Roberts.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I wasn't in the subcommittee meeting, so can you just, this is a complete ban of any form?
This is a ban, yes, ma'am.
So when we did the leaf form before.
We did before. We regulated it down to a lower strength. We got it behind the regular counter. We got it 21 years old. And right now, based on what's happening out there in the community, we still need more. You've got one of the major researchers, University of Florida, is like, Rick, you've got to get it out of gas stations if nothing else. It's dangerous in gas stations and places like that. It's
I could agree with that part.
real dangerous. And so, and he's a leading researcher for them. Florida's done a good job in Georgia of leading that research.
Representative Pence.
Hi.
Hey.
I know you and I have talked about this a lot on the floor.
And I appreciate your talking.
Thank you. Are you not amenable to amending it to allow it to be available for people with a medical or for people under doctor's care, or put it behind the pharmacy like we do with other substances that are subject to abuse?
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's a way to do what you talked about, the first option, where you could allow someone with a doctor's note, because we tried that. That was one of the first things I tried was, could a doctor prescribe it? Right now, there's not enough research, and that's the problem. Usually when you get a medication approved, you go through all this research first, then they say it's safe for the general public. Well, unfortunately, they've just now started that research, so we don't know if it's safe or not. That's the problem, and that's why they won't let us do that.
So then
The part two question, you actually could, if the committee so chose, that was where you could put it behind a pharmacy counter so they can ask the pharmacist if it's would it hurt. Like for me, if I walked in and tried to buy it, I was like, I'm on blood pressure medicine. Right. I've been on it since I donated a kidney, and they told me I'd be on it, and they could that is an option where you could do that and do some other things like outdoor advertising, limit that or ban it, and that would not ban the substance itself, but you would have that. You'd have to go inside a pharmacy to get it. It behind the counter too, and 21 and all that. A lot of restrictions, and that'd be natural leaf and all that. Preference based on, we just had a kid named Andrew Wood, just died. The sheriff's office in Glenn County, they walked in and said, what happened? She said, he walked to the counter, he said he thought it was safe, because it was sold over the counter, and he just died in the past 2 weeks. Glenn County, the constituent-based bill. So that's why I'm still sticking with the ban. The community wants it. I represent my community, and that's definitely my first option.
Representative Kendrick.
Yes, thank you. So I was in the subcommittee, and I know we had a lot of testimony about some benefits from kratom, particularly from almost the pure form of it. And I'm not a pharmacist, so I won't go into trying to pronounce the derivatives of it, but a lot of it, a lot of the complaints for kratom seem to be because there was different substances and other things added to the pure kratom that was causing some of the side effects. So for those of you that were not in subcommittee, I just wanted to point that out. But this bill would ban it in its entirety, not just things that were added to kratom, but even the pure form of the kratom, correct?
Correct. And if I can add to that with what you talked about, the substance, if it can go like I had Dr. Norton look at the research, and I can get to that research, but basically there's not the research like for how many natural leaves is okay to put in a cup of coffee or tea. And these pills, even 10 natural leaves of natural kratom is not good. That's a lot of leaves. And so you can't cut it down and cut it down and cut it down. It just hasn't been effective. And that's the whole issue. And now there's other states, too, that I can name if you want me to, about who's banned it. It's growing.
Do you have a follow-up, or you?
No, I just think that there's a big difference between the synthetic and the pure leaf kratom, so I'll offer an amendment at the appropriate time.
Representative Neal.
Okay.
Thank you. I'll make this brief because looking forward to not having to deal with kratom anymore. But I know I know you keep mentioning research, not enough research to kind of keep it out, but I think this is what we were pushing back on last time. There's not enough research to ban it completely either, because we had all this testimony where it was inconsistent across the board, and so that's why we, were more amicable to what we did before as opposed to doing a full ban. So I just want to kind of remind us where we were the last time.
I understand, and that's why Dr. Lopez called it Russian roulette, where you're not sure what you're taking sometimes, and it's just in any other drugs, whether it's Tylenol or any drugs you get from a doctor, prescribed by a doctor, they have to go through rigorous testing first to get approved. This was never approved. That's the base of the problem. But thank you.
All right, I see no other questions. Representative, if you want to slide over, we're going to
Yes,
get
sir.
the testimony real quick. All right, I'll just remind witnesses 1 minute. Let's see. Peter Goffner, come on. Welcome back.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
I gotta bring this down close. All right. My name is Peter Goffner, and I'm here on behalf of my family and my daughter, and she wanted me to remind you to roll Tide. I just talked to her. She said she's sorry she couldn't be here. But anyway, I just thank you again, Chairman, and everyone for just taking the time to be here today. On October 22nd, 2022, I got a call from my late husband's work, and they said he had collapsed. And I said, he collapsed? What are you talking about? He collapsed. And he said, I don't know, and long story short, fast forward, I'm the only person in the United States to have a video of me being on FaceTime with him while they are working on him trying to save his life. And if I'm able to, if I can, may I play just a clip of that? I don't know if you'll let me or not, but it's about a second clip to hear what it's like for a woman to beg for someone's life, knowing that this person could be dying. Would you allow that? You don't have to. I just thought I would bring it up.
Things such as that I'd need to pre-clear beforehand.
Yeah,
so.
it's perfect. Now, I thought I'd ask, and
No,
it's here if I needed it. But just to hear what it's like, not knowing exactly what he was dying from, and then I said, "There's no way that he's dying from something of natural causes because he just got a clean bill of health. What's going on? He's healthy." And so when I was watching the video when they were working on him, I said, "Something's off." So I got a call. Fast forward that. I had to tell my daughter that her father was not coming home after she said his dad coming home. The nurse said we lost him to cardiac arrest. Well, it first starts out as a seizure, stroke, and then cardiac arrest. That's what it's in order. And the medical examiner said they don't know how many other deaths could not even been reported from kratom that are coming in as cardiac arrest, but not knowing that it was kratom. So that is something that, I am in favor of the ban because we don't know what this kratom is doing. We really don't know what it's doing to our kids, to people. And the lady in Pennsylvania, they were at a coffee shop, and their daughter put kratom in her tea, and 20 minutes later, she was dead on the ground. So we don't know, and they're not educating. This is the biggest key right here. Education is not being taught from the top down on how to educate the store owners, and the store owners and educate the employees. So they could take a monster drink that my husband took, thinking that the kratom was healthy, mix them together, and it's a lethal cocktail for death. Tea, chocolate, they just don't know. So anyway, thank you for your time. Thank you for that. And then maybe we'll talk about hearing that one day.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank
I
you.
see no questions.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right. Next up, I have Eli Cohen. Come on down.
I'm going to do 1 minute.
One of
Appreciate you guys listen to me every
Drew
time.
Ashby's lieutenants here today.
No, he works for me. Let's get that right.
I like that. I like that. Go
Glad
ahead.
That's recorded.
Go ahead.
You guys know my position. I've been taking kratom cases and suing these companies for the last few years. Since I was here 2 weeks ago, I think I got another 4 people reach out to my office about a loved one dying. What you haven't seen is that the people who make the biggest brands of kratom, like OPMS, who live in Georgia, come and talk to you about their own product, even though they're miles away. So I thought it'd be fun to read their warning so that they actually can sit here and talk to you guys directly. Because these are their words. Again, you can go to opmskratom.com, read their warning, and this is what they say about kratom. It's also in the little pamphlet here now, since we've been suing them. Kratom may be associated with serious potential side effects, including seizures, liver damage, withdrawal, addiction, abuse, and death. Please review the FDA's advisory commentary on kratom. They tell you in the product now, since we've been suing them for the last 4 years, that this product will kill you, and it should be banned. Why are we letting a product that the manufacturer knows is deadly stay on Georgia shelves? They say you should talk to your doctor about this, and they want you to have a pretty normal conversation with your doctor. They say during this consultation, and I'm reading, be sure to request advisement on enzyme inhibition, including related to CYP enzymes, because we've all had those talks with our doctors about CYP enzymes. Please pass this bill.
Well, I see no questions. Thank you. All right. Next up, we have Matt Weatherington. Come on.
I'm going to use my 1 minute to answer any questions anyone has about kratom and this bill. If you want to know anything about how this is going to impact people, anything like that, happy to answer any questions. Everyone here knows my position. I'm in favor of passing the bill. I would like for people to stop dying, and I think that we have put the cart before the horse. If you believe that you want to pass an amendment that says kratom should still be legal because it has health benefits, that's fine, but you should come with science that says these are the health benefits, not just people who are saying this is how I feel about it. So I would argue that when you come with a pamphlet that says these are all the side effects, these are all the problems with our product, talk to your doctor. It kind of sounds like a drug, doesn't it? Well, drugs need to go through a process where they're getting sold. If down the road we determine that there are scientifically backed benefits of this product, nothing stops them from coming back here and getting a bill passed that allows them to use it in compliance with whatever the safe usage is. This is not complicated. It's been made complicated by the amount of money involved in the industry and the amount of spend that has been at this capital, but it's time that we get this right.
So just so I've got this straight, you're not one of his lieutenants either. Does he work for you?
Oh, I'll do anything Drew Ashby asked me to do.
Okay. All right. I want to make sure. Number 7, Representative Robert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, so I have no dog in this fight.
I understand.
We got tons of emails from lots of people saying that it benefits them. How do you respond to, I watch a commercial on TV, and approved drugs have a long list of side effects that can sometimes include death. Drugs that help them with blood pressure, or I don't even know. And then we also have other natural supplements that people take all the time that haven't been tested. And so I'm just trying to figure out what makes this different than those. I get that we know some counter indications, but if we put it behind a counter with a pharmacist that could ask those questions, is that still not good enough?
So I'll tell you 3 things. So number 1 is the difference between those things you see on TV and Kratom is that those things have all gone through human testing. They've all been approved by the FDA for sale and use as a drug. Kratom has not been approved for any human consumption usage at all, period, end of story. So those things you see where they've studied it and determined these are in fact the side effects that include death. These are the times but they've also done the step that Kratom has not done, which is, and this is how you use this drug and don't die. So that step has happened for all those commercials that you see on TV with those same disclosures like you see with Kratom. So then number 2 is that if you put it behind a pharmacy shelf, they're going to say, I'm not putting this behind my shelf. It's not an approved drug. We don't distribute unapproved drugs from a pharmacy. I'm sorry. So it wouldn't work as a practical matter. Any other questions?
Representative Panich.
So I know that there are things behind the countertop, behind the pharmacy counter that are over-the-counter things like decongestants. You have to check because people use it to make other drugs, really bad drugs. Why would this be different from that?
Exact same situation though. Like when you're selling something that has a medical use. Because the other difference here, and this is important, is that those things actually say we are a drug. We are used to treat a medical condition. Kratom affirmatively says we are not a drug. Do not put this in your mouth or you might die. Also, you should put this in your mouth. So that's what Kratom is doing. Like they are affirmatively saying not a drug, not a drug. It's a food. This is like a topping on a salad. Don't worry about it.
May I follow up? So for the people, do you deny that there may be good uses for it? Because the emails I'm getting, I have nothing to do with Kratom.
I understand.
I don't know who Kratom people are. I don't really shop in gas stations for drugs, for anything except a smooth, like a Slurpee or something. But what do you say to them? If there are people that there is real, there could be value in this.
Absolutely. I would tell those people to do what they're already doing, which is encouraging the FDA to continue testing the product, to continue pushing their advocacy organizations to sponsor and to put out good testing to determine the safe usage of the product, and for them to continue to go down the normal process that every other drug in America has gone through and not leapfrog over safety rules. Because I get it. There are people who might have a preferred pain prescription. But if you told me that, hey, one in every 100 people who consume Advil are going to die, I might go take a different pain medicine. And I think that if these people were actually educated on what the hazards of this product were and they were done in an actual meaningful way, I don't think you would be getting those emails, if they're even from people at all, which I will remind you that this committee, as well as the other state committees, have been victim of astroturfing by the American Kratom Association and related organizations by them paying for people to send you emails to come down here to do the lobbying, because these are not people who are in Georgia. These are people from across the state who may have an interest, may have not. They're not the ones sitting in front of you. We are, as well as the victims of parents and children and husbands and wives of people who have actually lost Kratom. And I would ask you to question this at the end of the day. What would you prefer? To give people their preferred version of this drug, this pain reliever or this natural substance, whatever they want, or to have another group of people in your district in Georgia who die? What is the greater harm here? Would you prefer to let them have this thing that they think benefits them with no medical backing whatsoever, or for people to actually die? Because that's the current situation that we're in, and I leave it to this committee to decide what you think the good policy is, because I think the answer is ban the product until it's been proven safe.
Thank you.
Let's see, Representative Holly, is that you down there on two? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for being very clear with your position. I always like that when someone is very clear about where you stand. Would it be correct if your position is that because the waiver of liabilities are highly unenforced, you would like to see that the product be removed? Or would you be okay with, for instance, the kratom actually being on the shelf if there was, if there's an assumption of risk, if it's labeled there? Is it? I guess your position is that it should be removed and be further studied. You have a problem with if there is actually a liability warning on there.
I'm not sure I understand your question, but I think what you're saying is that kind of, if I were to put up a big box, kind of like they do with cigarettes, and they say, hey, smoking this is going to cause cancer. And the kratom people were to put on there the same size big boxes, taking this and you will die. Okay, so the answer to that question is, I have no idea. Like, you would have to have people come in and testify and determine whether those warnings are effective, whether children are able to access them, like what does that look like? And that's a policy decision that I'm really not prepared to address, just because we've seen kind of similar things happen in other states, and those states have also ultimately ended up in banning the product. But I understand your point, and your point's well taken. And I think that if there are people who are sufficiently motivated to get kratom, they will obviously go to places where they can get it and acquire it, and that's their issue if they want to do that.
Thank you. Yeah, the only reason I raised it is because, in this committee, we do get to amend the language. And so, if the bill sponsor wanted, if it's up to his choice, whether he wants to or not, in terms of actually adding in language that would allow for notifying the public that there is an assumption when that they buy the product that they, could be causing harm to themselves, and then leave it up to the persons to make that decision. If that was, being able to write that in legalese to add that in.
So this committee and other committees have had somewhere north of 100 to 200 hours worth of testimony on kratom, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Just first and foremost, I'm sorry that we're having to do this. What we have also had is testimony from poison control. We've also had testimony from the addiction recovery centers. We've had from all of those things, and all of those entities support the ban bill. And I think part of this as well is that once you're addicted to this product, because remember, there has been testing on the addictive principles of kratom, and what did they determine? They determined it's just about as addictive as morphine and heroin and a variety of other the bad drugs. So you put the warning on there, someone is taking kratom or has taken kratom. Again, from a policy perspective, what do we want to do here? Do we want to keep a drug that is deadly and addictive out of the hands of the public, or do we want to ease some liability concerns that lawyers might have somewhere? I think the answer is health and safety and protecting life. So, anything else?
Representative Roberts.
Thank you. Sorry, I had another
No
question.
problem.
Okay, so it sounds like you litigate these cases often. Are there any other, and you're very persuasive, so you must be good for your clients. Are there any other natural products that aren't considered a drug that you get cases and you litigate over?
Oh yeah, I'll give you a great one. Magic Dirt. Okay? So there was this product called Magic Dirt. And what it was it was a dirt that was sold, and you eat it, or you put it in your eyes, or you put it in your ears, and it will cure your cancer, it will cure your brain injuries, it will cure COVID, all of these kinds of things. So the typical process is people buy dumb things, and that's okay, that's their problem. Unfortunately, this dirt was being mined from downstream of a nuclear waste facility, and so people were putting radioactive dirt into their body, and it was $100 for dirt that was the size of a Skittles bag. But yeah, I litigated those.
Wow. Okay.
But yeah, Google Magic Dirt. It's an amazing story. Yeah, Black Oxygen Organics. They shut down about 3 weeks after we brought all this to the news, and then they were banned in 17 countries.
Wow. Okay.
So,
Thank you.
yes. All right, thank you.
Okay, I see no other questions. Thank you. Robert Smith with PAC.
since I'm the one that screwed things up in the subcommittee, I'm here to answer any questions. And specifically what I'm talking about is that in Georgia, to be a controlled substance, it has to be scheduled by the legislature, and also the federal government. It can't be a controlled substance unless it's scheduled by both parties. And that was the request that I made at the subcommittee, was to do one or the other. But you can't pass the bill and say kratom is a Schedule I controlled substance in Georgia, because we can't prosecute it in the way the law is currently drafted.
Have you seen the sub?
I've heard rumors of a sub.
Yes, I thought
I looked at
it earlier.
You did, but I just didn't.
I thought we corrected it.
And by
We
changing
worked together, and
yes,
we wrote exactly what he asked, and it should be corrected.
and changing the word would allow us to prosecute possession if this is the policy you guys want us to do. By changing the and to an or, it now allows us to prosecute possession of kratom if this law passes. Now, I'm going to also be full disclosure. By passing it this way, there could be some unintended consequences as well. I don't have a magic 8 ball, but I can't tell you everything that's scheduled by Georgia but not scheduled by the feds, and vice versa. Because by changing it from because before to be a controlled substance in Georgia, it had to be scheduled by both the state of Georgia and the federal government. By changing the and to an or, which allows us to do this kratom bill, because as you've heard, the federal government hasn't weighed in on kratom, so we can't prosecute it as a controlled substance in Georgia. But by changing that to an or, that means if there's things that the federal government has scheduled that Georgia has not scheduled, we have the ability to prosecute that as well, and with our law enforcement partners. Remember, I try not to advocate one way or the other. I just try to tell you guys what's happening. Yes, ma'am. On LC 520989S, it's the or on line 14, ma'am. To change the and to an or.
Yeah.
You can be. I was once told that basically good policy and good everything is when everybody gets a little bit. I was also told that's what happens. Justice happens in the courtroom.
I'm still curious about unintended consequences. So, I know you might have to hypothetical, but I think it would be beneficial to us. Just one example.
I don't want to speak out of turn, but I think there was a change by the federal government about marijuana recently that Georgia doesn't have. But I'll tell. Here's a positive. The federal government also, I believe, took action against 7-OH, or and see, this is when you I'm speaking out of turn because I don't know, but I think there was also Trank, and I wish that
7-OH for sure. Yeah.
Yes, I wish that, but there were some other drug. There's been some other drugs that the federal government has done. If you remember, I think it's Chairman Stevens brings a bill every year from the GBI Crime Lab. This would negate that requirement. Because when the federal government schedules a drug, now all of a sudden we can prosecute it at that moment rather than having to wait for you guys to then take the GBI Crime Lab bill and add all those drugs that no one can pronounce to the different schedules. We could then immediately start prosecuting those upon action of the federal government. But once again, the or. Because then suddenly, if the federal government says this is a Schedule I controlled substance, the possession of it in Georgia becomes illegal as well. We could, if this and becomes an or.
Chairman, federal law. Yeah, so that's federal law, though.
Yes, sir.
You're going to prosecute the federal law in state court?
With the or, we could. Because how it reads is that the way the change then become the and. It's right now it says and.
Okay.
So it says we have to do
So
both.
what you're saying is it would also make everything in their schedules illegal? on
Potentially,
ours.
yes.
So ours and theirs would both be, and whatever differences, whichever one had the most wins, essentially, right?
Potentially. The others, and once again, this this is one of those issues. There's a side issue about Georgia abdicating its authority to the federal government, dealing with federal government changes without Georgia action. But this is one way to solve the problem.
Number 14, Representative Bill Fincher.
Mr. Chairman, so basically you're telling us you'd like to see us pass this bill?
No, sir. This is a policy decision. Basically, the idea is that if you don't change the and to an or, the problem what you're doing is you're telling us and law enforcement arrest people for possession of kratom, and then when we go to prosecute them, we have to dismiss the charges because it's not a controlled substance under Georgia law.
Of course, you've seen this, it has or in it.
Yes, sir. The substitute has or in it, so we could do that.
We can prosecute.
We could, yes.
So what's your recommendation?
If you want I'm not recommending passage or not moving the bill. All I'm basically telling you is this is if you want to change, you want to do this, this is how you do it.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Always absolute wealth of knowledge.
Like I said, I screwed it up in subcommittee. I was going to stand up here and take the hit too. So,
all right, members, there's some question on whether we want to abdicate state authority under the 10th Amendment. So, the chair is going to take this under advisement and bring it back on Thursday.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Thank you, committee.
All right, next up, we are going to get to House Bill 1255 by yours truly. I'll present from here unless there's objection. Hear none. And I'm going to let Kevin pass out the substitute. There is a sub to what y'all have in your folders. Sarah, if you want to come down, I'll let you sit there just to go over. And Sarah, just fill in where I may leave out or need to clarify.
Sure.
Members, this is a very lengthy piece of legislation. But in summary, first of all, I got to recognize a few folks. That gentleman from Forsyth County, Bill Finch. Good to see you, my friend. Lawyer of the Week, a good friend of mine from good old West Georgia, Christy Draper, and her main sidekick there, Miss Katie. And so it's good to see y'all. Welcome. Both of my district attorneys, Mr. Jason Smith and then Miss Sarah DePore, thank y'all very much. So, all right, we're going to get into it. Members, I bring to you House Bill 1255, and this has been a lot of work. I want to thank PAC. I know that obviously there's some opposition, members of PAC, different DAs that have helped on this, even though I know that there's still some issues to work out. Thank y'all to all your work, and even the solicitors that have chimed in or opposition to it. So this is primarily a criminal discovery modernization bill. You'll see that It would accelerate and expand discovery timelines. It would add detailed expert disclosure requirements and actually clarifies what it means to be as far as the term of possession, custody, or control. To include investigating law enforcement agencies and certain private individuals as well. And this would also attempt to update our subpoena service rules. I'll go through section by section as quickly as possible. Section 1, and this is LC 48-1803S that we're presenting here. Section 1 covers that a copy of an indictment from a grand jury must be either mailed or electronically transmitted to the defendant and attorney if known within 5 days of being filed, unless the arraignment is scheduled within that 5-day period. Section 2 covers the accusation must either be mailed or electronically transmitted to the defendant and attorney if known within 5 days of being filed, unless the arraignment is scheduled within that 5-day period. Section 3 would in essence provide that when the defendant has opted into discovery, pretrial motions must be filed within 30 days of the state's compliance with discovery obligations and not later than 30 days prior to trial. Section 4 would revise the definition section of discovery for both felony and misdemeanor to add a definition for law enforcement agency. It would specify that body cameras and dash cam footage containing oral statements made by the witness are within the definition of statement of witness. It would also provide a definition for written scientific reports, which includes 1, GBI forensic reports, 2, autopsies by coroners or pathologists, 3, blood alcohol content test results, or 4, forensic interviews conducted by child advocacy centers or nonprofits. I will pause there to say that there is a potential amendment that I will consider friendly that we have worked with those advocacy centers on. Then you will see from line 75 through 105, it would make the discovery proceedings apply to state and superior court cases when the defendant opts in. The defendant cannot revoke the opt-in. In multi-defendant cases, when one defendant opts in, it applies to all defendants unless the case is severed. Article 2 of the chapter applies to all misdemeanor cases in city, municipal, recorders, probate, or other courts in which a jury cannot be impaneled unless the state and defendant agree in writing to opt into Article 1. This in lines 103 through 105 specifically. And the use of this article on line 105 refers to Article 1. You'll go forward to lines 106 through 110, and this would allow the prosecution to provide at arraignment all those charged with a copy of the indictment or accusation and list of witnesses. Currently, it requires those be provided prior to. This can still be supplemented afterwards. All right, you'll move forward to lines 111 to 319. This would adjust various timelines throughout these lines regarding the timing of when discovery must be provided to the defendant. It was at least 10 days prior to trial. This makes it within 30 days of the arraignment, but no later than 30 days prior to trial unless the court orders otherwise. This requires the state to provide the defendant with a copy of relevant discovery rather than solely providing access to it. This requires prosecution to provide evidence of relevant oral statements made by the defendant while being interrogated. Currently, this is limited to statements the prosecution intends to use at trial. Statements of co-conspirators that are attributable to the defendant must be disclosed, currently only required if they are arguably admissible against the defendant at trial. Lines 149 through 151 specifies that copies of tapes created by third parties' data from posted security cameras or automated license readers must be provided as part of discovery. This limits certain discovery materials that must be provided to those that are material to preparing the defense and that are capable of being copied. If the evidence is unable to be copied, the defendant is entitled to inspect and copy or photograph the items. Lines 182 through 195 regarding written scientific reports, if the state knows or through due diligence could know the item exists It must be provided to the defendant so long as it's material to the case or the state intends to introduce it as evidence. If the report does not exist at the time of arraignment, it must be provided to the defendant within 10 days of receipt, but not later than 30 days prior to trial. I've actually seen this in real life, a case out in West Georgia where a scientific report was not provided, ended up in a mistrial once it was discovered. Lines 199 through 221 regarding expert witnesses, the state must provide a complete statement of all opinions that the state will elicit from the witness. 2, the basis and reasons for the opinions. 3, all technical notes and data supporting conclusions or results. 4, all documents relating to a peer review, examination, or other verification provided for conclusions. 5, all standards, protocols, policies, and guidelines serving as the basis for the expert's opinion. 6, the witness's qualifications, including a list of publications he or she has authored in the previous 10 years. And 7, a list of all other cases that the expert has testified in during the previous 4 years as an expert. Note that the GBI's Division of Forensic Sciences is exempted out from provisions 6 and 7 on lines 217 through 219, and then again on lines 221 through 223, respectively. Lines 22 through 27. If the required expert witness information is not furnished by the state, the court must decide if exclusion and suppression of the evidence is the appropriate remedy. Lines 228 through 231, those are stylistic changes for precision. Lines 232 through 242 requires the defendant to provide the state with a copy of relevant discovery rather than solely providing access to it. Changes the date from 10 days to 30 days after timely compliance by the state, but no later than 5 days prior to trial for when the defendant must provide the state with copies of relevant discovery. Lines 243 through 255 changes the date from 10 days to 30 days after timely compliance by the state, but no later than the 10 days prior to trial, for when the defendant must provide the state with a copy of relevant examinations and of scientific tests or experiments the defendant intends to use at trial. Lines 256 through 277 regarding expert witnesses, the defendant must provide the state with a complete statement of all opinions that the defendant will elicit from the witness. 2, the basis and reasons for the opinions. 3, all technical notes and data supporting conclusions or results. 4, all documents relating to a peer review, examination, or other verification provided for conclusions. 5, all standards, protocols, policies, and guidelines serving as the basis for the expert's opinion. 6, the witness's qualifications, including a list of publications he or she has authored in the previous 10 years. And 7, a list of all other cases that the expert has testified in during the previous 4 years as an expert. Note again that GBI's Division of Forensic Sciences is exempted out from the provisions 6 and 7 on lines 273 to 75 and lines 277 to 79 respectively. Lines 278 through 83, if the required expert witness information is not furnished by the defendant, the court must decide if exclusion and suppression of the evidence is the appropriate remedy. Lines 284 through 302 provides judicial discretion to a court when determining whether the defendant must provide relevant discovery that is within the defendant's possession and that defendant intends to use in the pre-sentence hearing. Unless otherwise ordered by the court, this must occur by announcement of the verdict of the jury or when the verdict is published by the court. Lines 303 through 312, these are stylistic changes for precision. Lines 313 through 317 requires either party that is subject to disclosure to notify the other party of the existence of additional evidence or material and to correct its disclosure and make the evidence available. We did not change anything there in lines 318 through 328 from the previous sub. Lines 329 through 356 adjust the timeline for when the prosecution can request notice of the defendant's intention to use an alibi defense to be within 30 days after arraignment. This was previously within 10 days. A court can still order a different timeline. Lines 373 through 382 changes the timeline to within 30 days of arraignment, but no later than 30 days prior to trial for when the prosecution must provide witness statements. Lines 383 through 391 changes the timeline for when the state must furnish their witness information to the defendant from 10 days before trial to within 10 days after arraignment. The defense must furnish their witness information within 10 days after compliance by the state, but no later than 10 days prior to trial. Lines 406 through 415 were revised to ensure clarity and conformance with existing law in chapters 11 and 14 of Title 17, which restrict reimbursement of fees. Article 1, Section 1, Paragraph 24 of the Georgia Constitution, no person shall be compelled to pay cost in any criminal case except after conviction on final trial. As an example of OCGA 17-11-1 provides that the cost of a prosecution except the fees of his own witnesses shall not be demanded of a defendant until after trial and conviction. If convicted, judgment may be entered against the defendant for all costs accruing in the committing and trial courts and by any officer pending the prosecution. Lines 425 through 431 makes Article 2 only apply to misdemeanor cases in city, municipal, recorders, probate, and any other court in which a jury cannot be impaneled unless the state and defendant agree in writing. Lines 474 through 495 removes the definition of written scientific reports, which was re-added on lines 67 through 74. Makes the provisions only apply to Article 2 and has additional stylistic changes for precision. Section 5 requires that subpoenas for production of documentary evidence be served in accordance with OCGA 24-13-24. Section 6 adds definitions for Child Advocacy Center, Law Enforcement Support Personnel, Law Enforcement Unit, and Peace Officer. As I'll remind members, we are working on some language concerning child advocacy centers. This would require that law enforcement units designate at least one person to whom subpoenas for law enforcement or child advocacy staff can be served. The designation will be made in writing and will provide notice to any person on request. This is to avoid having to serve law enforcement personnel at their homes. It would also allow for personal service to a law enforcement unit through the designated individual at the law enforcement office. I can speak from experience. I have been in a GBI field office at 5:30 in the morning to catch the officer I needed to subpoena within that 24-hour period before a trial were to take place. Section 7 makes all of OCGA 17-16-4A apply to the responsibilities of the GBI's Division of Forensic Sciences, re the independent testing of evidence. And Section 8, effective date is July the 1st, 2026, and the bill applies to any motion made or hearing or trial commenced on or after that date. That, members, is the bill, and I'll stand for questions. Chairman Gullett.
Thank you, Chairman. That's a mighty lofty presentation, really long bill. I'm trying to absorb it all. I know I've looked into this a little bit. I do have a question related to line 144, like this. That's section A. And when I saw within 30 days prior to trials, otherwise ordered by the court, provide the defendant with copies of books, papers, blah blah blah, including tapes of third parties and data posted from security cameras, automated license readers, etc. What happens in like a child pornography case? I don't know. Is it a policy decision where we're saying we're going to transfer, like say someone had child pornography, where we're transferring those tapes or making copies of those tapes? Is that a good policy decision from that particular issue here?
I'll defer to Sarah.
Hey, thank you for the question, Representative Gullett. That doesn't happen under current law, and I think that the prosecutors here could agree with me and let me know. What happens is that is that it's under kind of a protective order. We go to their office. We usually have to meet with their investigator. We don't like looking at those images either, but it's a part of our job.
Sure.
They do not leave that office. If we need to have, sometimes we need to have an expert examine that information, then we reach an agreement with the prosecutor. But this language here, I do not believe would impact the way that things currently happen, and that's how they currently happen.
Okay. And you're confident in that?
Yeah, I
Okay.
am.
I don't believe this is
And
one I don't want to happen, so I'm okay.
Absolutely, and if we needed to put some clarifying language in there to address it, but we don't have clarifying language of that nature in the statute now. And I
Okay.
think that probably prosecutors agree with me that they're obligated to give us access to that information now.
Yeah, I'm
And
not
it-
saying that access.
yeah.
I'm just talking about making copies is where my,
Okay.
you're basically providing
Sure.
copies, provide the defendant with copies of, that's what my worry is.
Or access to,
Well, including tapes, and basically it says down later if, so long as items
And
are
in
capable of being
fact, I-
copied, provided however you can't be copied, you can go in and make copies.
and I guess
and
my
photographers.
argument would be that that covers it, but we'd be happy to work on language with the chair to address that, because I think it says if it cannot be copied, that material under law right now cannot be copied. It cannot be disseminated.
Okay.
So I think that but certainly if we needed to make that clearer, I think that's something we could easily do to address
Okay.
that concern.
Thank you.
Number 11.
I think I found the answer to the one part I had. It was the most recent part. I'm going back through looking for other questions. Thank you.
Number 6.
Thank you. Hi. I don't know what this applies to. It's lines 284 through 302, but it's the beginning of each paragraph. Unless otherwise ordered by the court, the defendant shall, no later than the announcement of the verdict of the jury or if the defendant is waived, the time the verdict is published, serve upon the state all books. Why are they waiting until the verdict to...
So I know this was a little bit confusing to me, but if we go back and look at what they're talking about here is sentencing materials.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Okay.
And it's just kind of hard to get that from, I think, the way that it's modified here.
Okay. Yeah, I tried to go back and I couldn't figure it out still, so thank you.
You're welcome.
I see no other questions. You have anything you want to add?
Just very briefly, because I know time is tight, I just want to make sure that everybody understands how hard we've tried to work collaboratively on this for over a year with all interested stakeholders. We have a number of, and we're willing to continue to do that moving forward in this process. This is not a bill that's aimed at making things better for defense attorneys. It's a bill that's aimed at making things better for the system. We think that the rules don't reflect the reality of what is our best practices now, and that's what this bill does. It imparts fairness and efficiency in a system that right now requires oftentimes a lot of litigation around process as opposed to substance. And you know, I'm happy to answer any additional questions were there any, but this is truly an aim, and we have proposed language already ready for consideration to address some issues that we've discussed, potential concerns of the judiciary. We've made many changes in response to requests of the prosecutors. We think it's a bill that is ripe to be moved now to help us deal with the changes in evidence that have happened over the last 30 years.
You do have one question, Chairman Crowe.
Certainly.
That's me.
Sorry,
Oh.
Chairman, go.
I will say, I just want to correct, not all interested stakeholders. I dropped a bill last year related to discovery, and I never got a conversation about this out there. So I was interested in that process. Again, dropped last year. I know Gactel for sure is familiar with it. I know the chairman is familiar with it, but I was not involved in any way in this legislation here. Not that I need to be, but I was an interested party.
And I apologize for that, and Representative Gullett, I didn't mean to say anything that was untrue. It was my understanding that we had done our very best to reach out to everybody. I know that we have talked extensively and met both in person with the solicitors, and I apologize if somehow that connection didn't get made with you, and I am happy to talk to you at any point going forward. I am also a full-time sole practitioner, so I will be available, but I apologize if I have dropped the ball in any way in making a reach out. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. No other questions.
Thank you.
All right. let's see. Mr. Bill Finch, come on up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
This is rather low.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and members of the committee. I heard that this was being described as not a defense bill, but it is ironic that all the author and the signers all practice criminal defense in the state of Georgia. So I think that ought to be noted, first of all. Second, we attempted to get the misdemeanor discovery bill passed last year. That was authored by Representative Gullett. We appreciate your leadership on that, and it was, I believe it was signed off on Mr. T.P. Harris. Smith, sorry.
Mr. Solicitor, with all due respect, and I do this for any other member of the committee, when I step in these doors and step into this position, it's neither one way or the other. Just to point that out. You may continue.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but I think it needs to be noted for the record. And I appreciate what you say, and I've taken it into consideration, but we couldn't get this passed last year. We couldn't even get it to a committee last year, so I think that is important for this body to understand. We are already, the state of Georgia has expended a lot of money through the Chief Justice's Commission to get a case management study that's out, and that is to be able to provide discovery through one entity. I think it's important that if we're talking about discovery and being able to disseminate that, we ought to consider how much money has been sent by the state of Georgia already in order to facilitate some of the discovery processes that this omnibus bill is attempting to achieve. I think that we ought to have the Chief Justice's Commission on that to be brought in within the purview of this commission so that we can understand what it is that we're asking prosecutors to do, what we're asking our law enforcement agency and our partners to do. I think that this is something that needs to be considered by the board, by this committee before it passes. And I think I'm probably coming up on my time, but it's also my grandchild's birthday today, so I'd like to wish him a happy birthday. It is Maximilian Aubrey Morrow, so I stand ready to answer any questions any of you may have.
Well, happy birthday to him. Any questions
you,
from members of the committee?
Chairman, if I might ask a question of this witness. You're telling me that there's no way you can fund producing this kind of material. Is that what you're telling me? There's nobody there to create this kind of discovery?
Well, we're talking about a whole bunch of different agencies throughout the state. I'm fortunate to live in Forsyth County, and we can do this. We are able to give out discovery many times within 2 weeks of arrest in my county. We have Axon. Many counties throughout the state do not have that, and putting these mandates and these time limits on these smaller jurisdictions it'll be hard for them to comply with it. I'm lucky, and I am fortunate to live in Forsyth.
You mentioned the chief. Can I ask another question? You mentioned the Chief Justice Commission. Now, tell me, I'm sort of a rookie at this thing. You kind of a newbie. Tell me what and we're not related, just so people understand that.
I'm Finch and you're Fincher. We're anticipating Finch S to come in here later.
That's right. But tell me about this commission. Is there such an entity that could review this for us?
What is happening right now is that the Chief Justice has determined that our process for getting information from law enforcement to prosecutor to clerk, and then, you know, throughout the process is unworkable. Many times, case management systems within in a county can't even talk to each other. For those of y'all who are a little bit older, I won't say any of the females here were a little bit older, but do you remember the time where we had to discuss word perfect with Word, and how it was impossible to get that to understand what one program was saying to another? And what I meant to say was, I don't want to be rude when talking about somebody's age as being the same age as I am. I am past 60, so it is difficult to get those case management systems to talk to each other, just like it was difficult to get programs that are probably good on their own to talk with each other, like Word and Word Perfect. It's impossible.
You're not answering. We missed. May I continue and ask another question? My question is there such a commission? Do you think that what you're saying? You think that the judges would like to be heard on these issues or review these issues before we pass a bill? Is that what you're saying?
I think some of the things have been brought to the attention of our judges, particularly in Section 2, as to who's going to comply with, mailing the notices out. And it depends on what each county has designated as their case manager. For mine, the case managers fall within, the judicial case managers fall under the judge. Some places it's the prosecutor, other places it's the clerk. And who is going to be responsible for mailing out those notices, and which department is responsible for the cost of that?
Yeah, we're still not getting at what the question I'm asking is. We've evidently, there's been a lot of work done before I ever got here on this. Has been work from both sides, but has there ever been a weigh-in from the judiciary on this? Have they reviewed any of this and made any kind of recommendations or given us any kind of feedback?
I don't know that he would. I'll answer that one, okay. Mr. Solicitor. Okay. We have talked with the Superior Court judges here in the state and listened to a lot of their feedback over the last several weeks. But I will note, we are the legislative branch, and although we do invite their input, we are separate branch of government.
I'm not wanting to argue, pull it out of a witness if I can, but what I'm saying, it looks like there's a lot of burden here on the court system, as well as on the prosecutors, as well as there's a defense discovery here involved. And we're talking about it appears that you're going to make the solicitors and the prosecutors pay for the material that's prepared by the defendants. Basically, it reads that we're going to have to supply money for them so they can afford to produce this discovery that's reciprocal. Is that how you understand it?
Some of that, I believe, because I think the chairman noted that you can't put those costs on a defendant. I think, for us to be able to get that from the defendant, we would have to pay for it on the front end.
And then, of course, I guess if they're sentenced, they would be ordered to pay for it.
Well, sure. Representative Fancher, I'll tell you how it works in Forsyth County.
Yeah.
What was it, $75 for the discovery file?
No, it's free. We do it by Axon.
Okay, all right. There was written material, I believe, at one time that we used to get charged for.
No, it was the cost of copying the videos. The video copying took an extensive amount of download time in order to get it from the sheriff's department to us. Once we had downloaded it, then we had to copy it, and then once copied, it had to be passed along to the defense.
So Forsyth County, you had to pay $75 to get those discs already as it stands today?
No, that's not true. Everything in Forsyth County is provided by Axon Links now.
For the copy of the disc, then, that's provided on in the downloading?
It is, no. You're given a link, and that link, we are allowed to make a determination as to how long that link is active, it is up to 90 days. And so defense counsel has they are not restricted at all during that 90 days to have a copy of that, and they can make their own copy. They don't have to go through us to make copies anymore. You're talking about a past policy that we used to have.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that policy changed then.
It is no longer a burden on us to spend untold hours copying videotapes. So we are appreciative of Axon, but then that costs money for my county, and my county is fortunate. They pay for it, and so I'm able to get that discovery out to you on DUIs within 14 days of arrest. I like to be able to do that because I want you to be able to make a decision, an informed decision. You can't make an informed decision unless you have all the evidence.
Well, I'm glad to hear that policy changed. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I might ask another question, whoever wants to respond, but do we know throughout the state how many prosecutors, how many counties have this Axon equipment at their disposal? I mean, is it every single?
That is up to each individual county or jurisdiction.
So the county has to pay that.
That's correct.
It's not provided by the state.
No,
it's not routinely available.
No.
And now, what is your knowledge as to the burden that would be on a jurisdiction that did not have this equipment?
Then they would have to do what we used to do, and that is to download it. That takes significant resources, significant amount of time just to download it. Then you have to provide it to defense counsel through thumb drives or DVDs.
Does it seem reasonable, or would it be essentially an impossibility for people who don't have any of these modern improvements to their where they store information to produce that information in a jurisdiction that didn't have Axon?
That's correct. In some of those jurisdictions, they don't provide copies. They just invite defense counsel to come in and view the materials in their offices.
This bill, though, it requires more than that, does it not?
That's correct.
So it doesn't have a situation where some smaller community.
There's not a carve out for that, no.
Okay.
Representative Fincher, I've got to move on to get to some of these other folks that have drove a long way. I know that you've probably got an hour and a half drive, so.
But I have a 5 o'clock meeting committee.
Well, we don't want you to miss that, so go right on ahead. Happy birthday to your grandson.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Randy, I think you were signed up to speak to this one as well. Come on down.
Yes, sir. Thank you all for having me again. It's Randy McGinley, DA in the Alcovey Circuit. Couple things before I get into sort of the overall take on things that I want to address is I know lines 27 through 30, and I will echo what Ms. Stewart said, is that, I've met with Chairman Smith on this bill previously and met with Gackel multiple times to discuss multiple things, and they have made significant changes that address a lot of the concerns that I had. I know lines, I guess, 26 through 30 is, my understanding was that there may be some language that would put that burden on the clerk's office to mail or email that accusation or indictment instead of it being the DA or solicitor's responsibility. If that responsibility is taken away from us, I'd be very okay with that.
Yes, and I apologize for not mentioning that earlier. That is an amendment we're going to work on putting in there. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. And then lines, I think, basically 48 through 51, it was also my understanding from some conversation with Gackel that there may be some amendment taking out private person, private entity, nonprofit entity that assists in the performance of law enforcement service. Because Walmart and those people can't be law enforcement agencies. I mean, you'd be putting someone who was a neighbor when a crime occurred, they had something on video, it would be presumed that we would know that they have something when we have no idea that they have something. And so I'll tell you is that
the idea of adding private person, private entity, or non-private entity to law enforcement is a major, major problem I have.
I'm amenable to that change.
I just, yeah. One thing I did want to also address on the most recent one is, I guess it's lines 222 through 229, and then also the same language in 278 through 284, which is essentially when either the prosecution or the defendant hasn't provided certain expert reports. To me, that changes the burden a bit or it lessens the burden in excluding evidence. As you're aware, I think it's 1716-6, that statute in and of itself requires a showing of bad faith and prejudice from either side to have something excluded. Because the whole point of a trial is the truth. And I mean, generally speaking, courts don't like to exclude things because that hides what the truth is. And so if we're specifically for expert reports, basically just saying it's excluded, or if there's an alternative remedy, that's taking away, in my view, the requirement to show bad faith and prejudice. And I think we shouldn't treat expert testimony, reports, summaries, whatever, different than other evidence. And I think the way this is written, it does that. And I think I could see some things working in a way that would not be a good thing. There's also, what I'll tell you is just real quick on the shifting of costs, because I know, Chairman, you mentioned that the Constitution in Georgia, as far as what it says about the defendant not paying for costs of prosecution, the discovery statute, as it currently is and has been for a long time, requires us to make things available. And so that's always been that we could then charge for making copies. This is dramatically changing it from making it available to furnishing to the defense. Now, the reality is most of us do furnish things to the defense. That's how we do things. But the frustrating thing is, and I promise you a lot of DAs and solicitors have this issue, when we send a Axon link, say it's open for 90 days for you to download and copy it. You know, often we have to resend that link to somebody over and over and over again. I'll say it's a public defender office case in my circuit, and I love my public defender, so this is just a one-time thing, but we've had to download a murder file onto their hard drive 3 times now. And these things take an entire day's time to transfer something from our computer to the defense's hard drive. When I started in 2011, a 300 case caseload in 2011 versus a 300 case caseload nowadays is a completely different world. The amount of data is overwhelming nowadays. It is just a vastly different world. Video, phone dumps, social media records. I have a case of I'm not going to get into it as a pending case, but it's a state employee that's arrested in charge of child pornography. And I just had to purchase a 10 terabyte hard drive just to put one thing from a computer download onto that. And I have Axon as well. I'll tell you, as for my circuit, I have 75 total employees in my circuit. We pay, between the two counties, about $130,000 a year for Axon. I'm lucky that I can do that. There's a lot of agencies, a lot of DA's office, solicitor's office that cannot afford that. And shifting the costs is just a total change to how we've been doing things. As far as requiring it, I guess I'll put it that way. We send things, we try to go ahead and get everything over the fence as fast as possible. We generally, if someone's already opted in, we send discovery before arraignment if they've opted in, or at arraignment when they opt in. With our public defender's office, we work very well with them. I may be in a unique circumstance to where we've already agreed that we're doing reciprocal discovery for misdemeanors for the last 15 years of my circuit, because it just works well. But to me, when we're going to call this an omnibus bill, changing all of discovery, when we change the evidence code, when we change big things like that, this is not, we don't rush that. We get everybody to the table and and I know people don't necessarily like them sometimes, but we have these committees and I know I've sent a proposal to the chairman of a study committee to make this right and do this the right way so we don't have those unintended consequences down the road. I'll use another example that's not addressed in this bill. Is one of the biggest issues, because I'm in this circuit where I've got 75 total employees. I don't have a full caseload, but I still try 1 or 2 murders, 1 or 2 child sex cases a year. So I'm in the courtroom personally handling these big cases. Defects records are one of the biggest pain in the butt, I'll just say it, things I have to deal with for discovery. And that's something that, again, for various reasons, probably good reasons, not being addressed by this, but why not address all those things at one time and do this as something where we have the Attorney General's office, they prosecute cases. You know, people from various size offices involved in that discussion, and make this something that we study and do right the first time. With that, I'll answer any questions. Like I said, I've been involved in this a lot. There's been a lot of changes that have been made to this, and I appreciate that. So I'll leave it at that.
All right.
I'll answer any questions.
It is 4:57. We've got some members that need to get the rules. So what we're going to do is we're going to come back to this on Thursday. Thank you all for your patience today. We will stand adjourned till Thursday, and we will let y'all know what time. Be safe, traveling to and from.
Will this witness be available later on?
I'll be here Thursday.
All right. We're adjourned.